Our lead story tonight is about layoffs. Mass layoffs continue across the world. The wave is led by tech companies and banks, and increasingly it's being done on Zoom calls. But why are companies doing it? And what is the best way to fire people? Also, if you're an employee, what should you do? How should you prepare yourself? We'll discuss all of this and more. In the US, Donald Trump is one step closer to the top job. He's all but set to be the Republican presidential nominee. What does it say about US politics? In Pakistan, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is making tall promises ahead of the election, but can he win it? In China, Jack Ma is making a comeback. We'll bring you the full story of the Alibaba founder. In South Korea, a Dior bag has triggered a political scandal. In Germany and France, protests threaten to derail the economy. In Canada, karma is biting back. A court has pulled up Justin Trudeau for misuse of powers to curb protests. In the world of science, a discovery that can change the way we see the world. Plants caught on camera talking to each other. At the Oscars, the snub to Barbie is problematic for many reasons. And a 99-year-old swimmer breaks 3 world records. If you need inspiration, this is a story for you. Age is indeed just a number. The headlines first. A Russian military plane crashes near Belgorod, killing all on board. The plane was carrying 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war for a swap. The cause of the crash is not yet clear, but Russia claims Ukraine shot down the plane near its border. Turkey finally approved Sweden's NATO membership. This comes after more than a year of delays. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg welcomes the move. Now only Hungary stands in Stockholm's way to joining the military alliance. Iran bars its former president Hassan Rouhani from re-election to a key body. The group, the Assembly of Experts, appoints Iran's supreme leader. Rouhani has been its member for 24 years. He is a vocal critic of his successor Ibrahim Raisi and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Tanzania's opposition protests against electoral reforms. Thousands take to the streets to oppose proposed changes to the electoral laws. A year ago, the government had lifted a ban on rallies by the opposition. Today's demonstration was the largest since then. Things falling apart for Boeing quite literally. The nose wheel of a Boeing passenger jet falls off just before takeoff. The incident took place on a Delta Airlines flight with more than 180 people on board. Earlier this month, a door plug blew out mid-air on a different Boeing model. A Ukrainian tennis player is being investigated by her own country. Why? Because the 16-year-old shook hands with her Russian opponent at the Australian Open. And Saudi Arabia will open its first alcohol store, but it will only serve diplomats. The store in the capital Riyadh is expected to open in the coming weeks. The move is a break from decades of strict alcohol prohibition in the kingdom. Do you know what's the latest work trend? Remote layoffs, the obvious sequel to remote work. This is how it plays out. You get an email from office, an invitation for a Zoom call. The agenda is not clear. When you join, you're told you're being laid off. And just like that, you no longer have a job. The first time this happened, the world was appalled. An online mortgage firm had fired 900 people. The CEO, who happened to be of Indian origin, was hauled over the coals for it. This was in 2021. Now it has become routine. The latest episode features journalists, employees of the Los Angeles Times, 115 of them. They were sacked this week over a Zoom call. Now, this is a leading American newspaper, 142 years old, and this is the biggest layoff in its history. 1/4 of the newsroom staff has been let go of. Why? The paper suffered financial losses, apparently. The owners could not afford these employees. So they were fired in the most brutal of ways. A mass layoff on one call, with chat disabled and no questions and answers taken. It was one-way communication. Now, layoffs per se are horrible, even traumatic. There is no nice way to do it. But you can be less vicious. And other companies should take note, because a lot of them are firing people. eBay has sacked 1,000 employees. That's 9% of their staff. eBay is an online retailer. Their CEO says rising expenses are to blame for this. They've joined a growing list of companies announcing layoffs like Google, Amazon's Twitch and Audible, Discord, YouTube, TikTok, they've all laid off people the world over. Let me give you numbers from this month. Tech companies have fired 11,000 people, and the month is not over yet. The last 2 years were horrible for them. They saw waves of sackings. In 2022, 164,000 layoffs. In 2023, over 260,000. They were hoping for a better 2023, but it's not looking good so far, including for Indian companies. Just today, Tata Digital sacked 150 employees from CultFit. It's a fitness brand owned by Tata. This may continue for a while. For many companies, a survey was released recently. 100 tech CEOs were polled. They were asked about their plans for the year ahead. Do you know what they said? 55% said they're focusing on downsizing, optimizing costs and reducing the workforce. And this trend is not limited to the tech sector. Banks are in the same club. Citigroup has announced layoffs. 20,000 people, 20,000 employees are being laid off from Citigroup. It's a big number. And frankly, it makes no sense. Why are so many companies firing so many workers? The last year was full of uncertainties. Recession was looming. Inflation was getting out of hand. So companies were worried. But that's not the case anymore. Most experts have ruled out a global recession in 2024. As for inflation, the World Bank says it is under control. Plus, most of these companies are making handsome profits. Yet they're cutting jobs. Do you know why? To boost the bottom line. Yes, technology is disrupting the job market, but it's not the only factor at play. CEOs and managers are under pressure from investors, stockholders, venture capitalists. They're expected to deliver better balance sheets and bigger profits. Not once or twice, but every quarter. The targets keep stretching. It's like an endless cycle, so managers cut costs and lay off people. Where does that leave the employee? It's easy to see the downside of it. But why stress about what you cannot change? So let's try to look at the glass half full. There may be an opportunity for you here. Companies are looking to do more with less. So to survive in this market, you'll have to be versatile, upgrade yourself, take initiative, and deliver more than your KRA. If you're out of a job, give yourself a break, tell yourself it's not the end of the world, and prepare yourself for the next challenge. This job market is tough. There are more candidates than vacancies. So a new and colorful CV may only take you so far. What you need to do is invest in yourself, acquire new skills, and adapt. Who knows, something better is awaiting you. It's Trump mania in the United States. The former president is on a roll. First, he won the Iowa caucus, and now he swept the New Hampshire primary. Trump had just one rival there, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. She spent a lot of money and time in the state, but Trump was just unbeatable. Let's look at the numbers first. Trump polled around 54.5% of the votes. Nikki Haley got 43.2%. What does this mean for the presidential race? Well, Trump's nomination looks inevitable. Only a miracle can save Nikki Haley, and the former president knows this. Trump's speech in New Hampshire was very different from the one in Iowa. In Iowa, he called for unity, but this time, we saw the old Trump. No filters, no decorum. Listen in.
And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world and straighten out the problems and straighten out all of the death and destruction that we're witnessing.
They would not have done the damage that crooked Joe Biden has done to our wonderful country. They would not have done the damage. There's never been anything like it. And you say, are they stupid people? I don't think so, because nobody can cheat that well if they're stupid. Do they hate our country? They must hate our country.
So Trump is on the charge. What about Nikki Haley? She's not giving up just yet. Next month is a South Carolina primary. Haley is betting on that. She served as South Carolina's governor from 2011 to 2017. So the hope is she will do better there.
This race is far from over. There are dozens of states left to go. And And the next one is my sweet state of South Carolina. At one point in this campaign, there were 14 of us running, and we were at 2% in the polls. Well, I'm a fighter. And I'm scrappy. And now we're the last one standing next to Donald Trump.
Confidence is good. But Haley's rival is a political giant, and that's our story tonight. Not the primary, not the Republican race, but Donald Trump. How is he still dominating American politics? Can he beat Joe Biden in November? Some trivia first. Only one US politician has served 2 non-consecutive terms as president, meaning he lost re-election, left the White House, then came back 4 years later and won again. And that was Grover Cleveland. A very different time, though. Cleveland was president in the late 1800s. Nowadays, losing presidents do not really wait around. You lose re-election, you leave. So Donald Trump is up against history. But his challenges do not end there. Trump also faces some 91 charges in multiple cases. They range from fraud to electoral manipulation. Some states are banning him from the ballot. Yet he's leading every poll. The question is how? What makes this 77-year-old, twice impeached former president so special? A couple of things. Number one, he's not just leading a political campaign, he is waging a cultural war. A sort of us versus them narrative. Whether it's on abortion or immigration or school textbooks or gender rights or homosexuality, Trump has tapped into the conservative mindset. Everyone else is the villain. Number two, the lack of alternatives. In 2023, Ron DeSantis was billed as the next big thing. He was called Trump Light. Later, we saw Vivek Ramaswamy making some waves. He too was called Trump Light. So Republicans don't really have many options. Everyone else is just different shades of Trump. Same for Democrats. President Joe Biden is 81 years old. He stumbles, he gets names wrong, and he often gets lost on stage. So compared to him, Trump may look attractive. Reason number three, his unconventional approach. Like I said, Trump faces 91 charges. Normally, candidates would be ashamed of that. They would divert attention from it. Not Trump, though. He wears the charges as a badge of honor, sort of like a battle scar. He's also skipping presidential debates. We've seen 5 Republican debates so far. Trump has skipped all of them. Who knows, maybe he won't debate Biden either. Finally, reason number 4, the state of America as a country. Biden has presided over a tumultuous term. Russia invaded Ukraine, Hamas attacked Israel, and food inflation reached double digits. Obviously, Biden must take the blame for some of it. And Trump keeps hammering on that point. His message is quite simple. Elect me and end the wars.
I was the only president in nearly 4 decades who did not get America into any new conflicts. Instead, I brought our troops and our wonderful children back home. We're at the brink of World War III, just in case anybody doesn't know it. As president, I will bring back peace through strength. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly.
Now, just to be clear, Trump doesn't have a magic wand. He has not explained how he will end the wars. But in the current climate, voters don't really care. A former president is telling them no more wars. And Republican or Democrat, that's attractive. But can he maintain this momentum? Can he beat Joe Biden in a rematch? Let's look at the opinion polls. Biden has 41% support among US voters, and Donald Trump, he has 48%. That's a 7-point lead for the former president. So on paper, he is in front. But a couple of problems still remain. For starters, polls are not always reliable. In 2011, Barack Obama was trailing behind his rival. The next year, he won handsomely. Also, voters leaving Biden are not flocking to Trump. Most of them are minority voters, like Hispanics and Muslim Americans. They feel Biden is not doing enough to control Israel. So what will they think about Donald Trump, who is Benjamin Netanyahu's best friend? Nothing good. Plus, elections are in November and voters have a short memory. Maybe by then the war will be wrapped up. Joe Biden is also betting on women voters. He's billed himself as a pro-abortion president.
The reason women are being forced to travel across state lines for health care is Donald Trump. The reason their family members are trying to get help, them to threatened with prosecution, is because of Donald Trump. And the reason their fundamental right has been stripped away is Donald Trump.
So it's too early to say. The Biden campaign says they have beaten Trump once and they can do it again. Trump is hoping to be second time lucky. It promises to be a cracking contest. On to another election now. Nothing cracking or exciting about this one though. It's the election in Pakistan, or should I say selection. Polls will open on the 8th of February, but the results won't be a surprise. It's very clear that the army is supporting Nawaz Sharif. They want his party to win. That's the PMLN, that's the party, the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. But his rivals are not giving up, and I do not mean Imran Khan. I'm talking about Sharif's other rival, the PPP, the Pakistan People's Party, the party of the Bhutto Zardaris. Now, the PPP and the PMLN were allies. Nawaz Sharif and the Bhuttos, the Sharifs and the Bhuttos. Together, they had toppled Imran Khan. But this time, they're fighting separately, and leading the PPP is this man, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. He's political royalty in Pakistan, the son of former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto and former President Asif Ali Zardari, also the grandson of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, former Prime Minister and President. And Bilawal Bhutto himself was foreign minister. But can he go one step ahead? Can he win the elections in Pakistan? Well, Bhutto certainly thinks so. He's campaigned much longer than his rivals. The PPP's campaign began in late December. Bhutto himself has visited almost 33 Pakistani towns. Compare that to the Sharifs. Their campaign started only last week. So Bhutto has invested more time and energy. And what's his pitch? Mainly two things. One, he's promising young leadership. 66% of Pakistan's population is under 30 years of age. Nawaz Sharif is 74. Imran Khan is 71. But Bilawal Bhutto is just 35 years old. So he says he understands the people better. Number two, a new politics. Bhutto says he will end the cycle of revenge in Pakistan. Listen to this. Some context now. Pakistani politics is a dangerous game. If the army supports you, you're king. If not, you're persecuted. That's how it works out. Just look at Nawaz Sharif and Imran Khan. When Imran Khan was in power, Sharif lived in exile. Now that Sharif is back, Imran Khan is in jail. Bhutto says he will end this cycle. The question is how? The PPP's election returns have been modest. In 2013, they won just 42 out of 342 seats. In 2018, they improved slightly. From 42, they reached 54 out of 342. And both times, they came up second. So why should this time be any different? Well, Bilawal Bhutto has a plan. He says he's betting on independent politicians.
I would prefer to form a Pakistan People's Party-led government with independent politicians. You know, lots of independent politicians, probably the highest in our history, are taking part in the coming elections. Aside from that, I think unfortunately both the Muslim League and the Tehreek-e-Insaf have proved that they are two sides of the same coin.
Again, some context. Imran Khan's party, the PTI, has lost its election symbol, the bat. So some of their candidates are contesting as independents. And Bhutto is courting them. He knows that the PMLN, Sharif's party, their voters will not switch. But Imran Khan's voters may. His party is very different from the last elections. For starters, Imran Khan himself is in jail. His top leaders have left the party. The bat symbol is gone and there is no army support. So voting for the PTI is pointless, which is why Bilawal Bhutto is pursuing them. He has asked PTI supporters to vote for his party, the PPP. In return, he's made a promise. If he comes to power, all political prisoners will be released. And that's a big carrot to dangle. Some 10,000 PTI workers are in jail. They must have family and friends. So Bhutto's promise could be a game changer. Of course, all of this is based on an impossible assumption, the assumption that elections will be fair. Rest assured, they won't be. Even Bilawal Bhutto realizes this. Listen to his recent statement, I'm quoting, Nawaz Sharif is certainly giving the impression that he is relying on something other than the people of Pakistan to become Prime Minister for the 4th time. There is no impression here. It is the truth. Sharif is relying on the army to win, and if Bilawal Bhutto wants to play this game, he should accept it. There's no point talking about the youth or climate change or the politics of revenge. All that matters is the army. If the PPP does not accept that, they will remain where they are, number 2 in every election. In China, the headlines are going from bad to worse. The economy is in decline, investors are dumping shares, the Hong Kong market is suffering, and a panicked Beijing is working on a rescue package. Amid all this turmoil, a familiar face is at work. Jack Ma of the Alibaba fame, who was later persecuted by Beijing. Now, Jack Ma and his allies are back in action. They're buying Alibaba shares. In recent months, Jack Ma has bought shares worth $50 million. His co-founder, Joe Tsai, is also buying. Tsai is the current chairman of Alibaba. Reports say he's picked up shares worth $151 million. So taken together, the total investment is around $200 million. Alibaba, the company, is worth $171 billion. So a $200 million investment may seem small, yet it is creating a lot of buzz. There's curiosity over why Jack Ma and Joe Tsai are doing this. And they haven't spoken about it. But when founders reinvest in their own company, it usually means 2 things. One purpose is consolidation. After this purchase, Ma and Tsai have become Alibaba's largest shareholders. Do you know who held this position before? SoftBank, the Japanese investment giant. So now Jack Ma and Joe Tsai have replaced SoftBank, most likely to strengthen their grip on Alibaba, the company they built. That could be the first reason. The second one could be the business itself. Even if the investors have doubts, the founders believe in Alibaba's potential. So they buy some shares as a mark of confidence. And with this, Jack Ma and Joe Tsai could be sending a signal that despite all the upheaval, Alibaba remains strong. Which is also important because recent years have not been kind to this company. Beijing has targeted Alibaba. In 2021, Chinese officials fined it. They said Alibaba is behaving like a monopoly, so it was slapped with a fine, a whopping $2.8 billion. This was unprecedented. Never before had a company like Alibaba been hit with such a large fine, $2.8 billion. Beijing was targeting both the company and its founder Jack Ma, the superstar CEO. The fine was in fact the second blow. The first was the targeting of the Ant Group, an affiliate of Alibaba, a financial services company. In 2020, the Ant Group was about to go public with the world's biggest IPO. The company was valued at over $300 billion, but China torpedoed it. Its crackdown tanked the IPO. Jack Ma came under scrutiny. He was forced to give up control of the Ant Group. And since that crackdown, Jack Ma has been out of public eye, in a self-imposed exile of sorts. Before the crackdown, he never shied away from the spotlight. He was famous for concerts like these. Every year, Jack Ma performed for his employees. He dressed up like famous rock stars, the likes of Michael Jackson. His performances were world famous. Jack Ma was China's most celebrated entrepreneur. Beijing's crackdown hit his reputation and pushed him out of the spotlight. So this share purchase is like a comeback of sorts. And the markets agree. When the news became public, Alibaba's share price shot up. It gained $13 billion in value. So in a sinking market, Alibaba shares are outliers. It's also a sign of confidence in Jack Ma. His name still carries weight. Though the same can't be said for China and its policymakers. Yesterday, news about a stimulus package broke. Beijing is planning a $278 billion fund to stabilize the markets. And this has been a long-standing demand of investors. They wanted direct intervention from Beijing. It may finally be happening, but will it be enough to win them back? We ask because investors are still skeptical. They believe this package is just temporary relief. They want more from Beijing.
Everybody expected the government to help, to do something. Of course, in addition to the crackdown on the big tech, on tutor schools, there has been a big slump in the property markets. Property market has been in the doldrums for 2 years now, and many private developers are on the verge of bankruptcy. So the government only launched piecemeal assistance and piecemeal measures, and the market was really disappointed.
So there's a trust deficit, and this is what you get when you persecute industry titans. China is just paying the price for the mistake of its leaders.
Goodness, sorry, we brought a crowd for you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you for coming out and voting today. God bless you. Can plants talk to each other? We saw it in The Lord of the Rings. We saw the screaming mandrakes in Harry Potter, but talking trees were more fiction and less reality. Until now, that is. Scientists have made a new discovery, and this may change the way we look at the world, the way we interact with it. They've caught plants talking to each other, and the exchange has been captured on camera. So how do plants talk? They don't use words, of course. That's human language anyway. Plants use smells. They warn each other of danger. Fun fact, if you love the smell of freshly mowed grass, do know that it is a distress signal. It's their way of saying SOS. Our next report tells you how plants communicate with each other.
It was the early 1900s. Jagdish Chandra Bose undertook a difficult task. He was a renowned scientist, the father of wireless communication. But Bose had a new challenge: to prove that plants can feel. that they are like any other living being. The idea is said to have come to him when he accidentally stepped on a Mimosa pudica plant, commonly known as the touch-me-not. Bose was surprised by the leaves folding, so he decided to investigate. What did he find? That plants can breathe, they can reproduce. More importantly, they can feel. Bose's discovery changed the way we look at plants. A century later, we have a long way. We know plants can feel. We know they can even talk. And now scientists in Japan have documented it. They caught plants talking to each other on camera. How did they do that? Of course, they're not using words, but a fine mist that surrounds them. Plants usually have a mist of airborne compounds around them. They are like smells. Plants use them to communicate, like using it to warn of danger nearby. The communication was captured between two sets of plants. One had caterpillars feeding on it, the other was untouched. The injured plant sent signals to the undamaged neighbors. The signals were detected by a biosensor. It carried calcium ions, something even humans use for signaling. These compounds infiltrate the healthy plant's tissues. That plant then activates its defenses. So basically, plants sense danger. They send signals, they warn each other, and they activate their defense mechanism. Doesn't sound much different from humans, and it's not. Humans have words to express themselves. Plants have smells, and they have a wide variety of them. It's like their language. Some are used to attract pollinators like bees. There are other signals for predators, like flies or herbivores. Some even have smells to lure them, like the Venus flytrap. Plants communicate with humans too. Do you love the smell of freshly mowed grass? It's actually a distress signal. When grass is cut, it emits chemicals. So the smell you love is their cry for help. Plus, they also communicate through roots. Sometimes trees send signals to fungi underground. It's almost like saying, "Come here." The fungi then grows around the root and wraps itself around it. It can even help the plant by gathering nutrients. It shows just how connected the world is around us. Plants may not have ears or eyes, but they do communicate. It helps them ward off danger and grow further. We've only seen talking trees in the world of fiction, but here on Earth too, all trees do is talk to each other.
Our next story is from Western Europe, specifically Germany and France. Both nations are reeling under fresh protests, which threaten to hurt their economies. We'll start with Germany. Train drivers in the country have gone on strike against the German rail operator Deutsche Bahn. This is the second industrial action this month. The first was a 3-day walkout between the 10th and 12th of January. And this time, the strike is for 6 days. Till next Monday, it's the longest continuous strike in Deutsche Bahn's history.
The strike participation is very, very high, and that was already reflected in the vote last December. It's noticeable. 80% of trains are cancelled.
The German train union GDL is behind the strike. What do they want? Fewer working hours, but the same pay. They've been pushing for this for months. Negotiations have been stalled. The last meeting took place in November, and neither side seems to be budging, hence the strike. It may or may not move the rail company, but it will bring rail transport in Germany to a grinding halt, and it may also derail the German economy.
This 6-day GDL strike has massive implications on the economy. If you will, the GDL is also on strike against the economy in Germany and Europe.
We recently discussed Germany's economy. It's in recession. The forecast is weak, and they may see back-to-back years of recession. And events like this train strike certainly won't help.
The strike itself will not trigger a recession, but it will throw sand in the gears of an engine that is not running smoothly anyway. And all of us know that we are currently facing a number of burdens. We really don't need this on top.
He spoke about a number of burdens. One of them is the German farmers' protest. German farmers have brought their tractors to the streets. They've been surrounding major cities, demanding agricultural subsidies. And this form of protest seems to have spread across the border to neighboring France. Farmers in France are also protesting. In southern France, they've blocked major roads with tractors. They say they're fighting to protect their profession and that agriculture is becoming unsustainable because of what they call excessive green regulation. These are basically new rules meant to combat climate change, like the removal of subsidies on diesel for agriculture. Of course, farmers don't like it. But this has far-reaching implications for France. It is the European Union's biggest agricultural producer. France has thousands of independent meat, dairy and wine producers. They say that increased green regulation is driving up costs, and this is driving them out of business. The French farmers are directing their anger at the government, and not just the French government.
The anger is great, it runs deep. The crisis is deep, and everywhere in France today, we need to be heard by our politicians, by our government. But above all, we need to move at the European level.
EU regulations have angered farmers in both France and Germany, so the EU is being blamed for their troubles. Elections will be held in June for the European Parliament, and as the polls approach, these protesters are hoping to find political support. It's a challenge that Europe cannot wish away. Unless they find a way to quell public anger, more protests will spring up in the coming months. And all this unrest will continue to rock Europe's faltering economy. In South Korea, there's a political scandal over a bag. It's called the Dior scandal, and it's threatening to tear the ruling party apart. It features South Korea's First Lady, the wife of President Yoon Suk-yeol. Her name is Kim Kyun-hee. But she's now being called South Korea's Marie Antoinette, all because of a gift she received, a Lady Dior bag given to her in 2022, and the exchange was recorded with a hidden camera. The video was published a few months ago, and the scandal has rocked the country's ruling party. It has pitted the president against his party leaders, and it threatens to hurt the party ahead of April's election. Here's our report.
Marie Antoinette, the queen who helped set off the French Revolution. When told that French peasants couldn't afford bread, she famously declared, "Let them eat cake." What does the current First Lady of South Korea have in common with this historical queen? Well, apparently, like Marie Antoinette, Kim Kyun-hee may just bring about a revolution. That is what some of her husband's party members seem to think. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is in a tough spot. He has to choose between supporting his party or supporting his wife. All over a $2,250 Lady Dior handbag. Back in September 2022, a transaction was secretly recorded. It's what Indians call a sting operation. A Korean-American pastor went to meet First Lady Kim Kyun-hee. He could arrange the meeting partly because of connections with her family, but allegedly also because he promised to bring her a gift. The pastor bought a Dior bag worth 3 million South Korean won. That's about 2,250 USD. He even recorded the purchase and the price tag. Next, the pastor went to meet the First Lady at her office. He gave her the bag, said it was a gift, and she accepted it before proceeding with the meeting. This was in September 2022, but the video went viral last November. It was edited and uploaded by a South Korean liberal news channel, and that has set off a political storm. Initially, the president's People Power Party refused to entertain it. They said it was a setup. The secret recording amounted to entrapment. And some party supporters agree with this. But many are asking, why did the First Lady accept the expensive gift? There is a South Korean anti-corruption law. It says that no public servant or their spouse can accept a single gift worth more than 1 million won. That's about 750 US dollars. And they can't take gifts worth 3 million won or $2,250 from one person in a year. The South Korean First Lady broke both rules at once, which is what puts President Yoon Suk-yeol in a bind. He insists that the bag is being managed and stored as a property of the government. But the explanation isn't making the scandal die down. Instead, it is making headlines across South Korea. And now the president's party members seem to be turning on him. The acting leader of the People Power Party recently said the scandal could be a matter of public concern. It sparked a row with the president, who wanted him to step down. That spat has been resolved, but last week another party member likened the First Lady to Marie Antoinette. The whole issue is getting embarrassing for the president, and it shows rifts forming in the ruling party, which puts them at a disadvantage ahead of the legislative election in April. While Yoon Suk-yeol will stay president till 2027, his party is already in the minority in parliament. The Dior scandal risks blowing their chance to flip South Korea's National Assembly, which is why the president is publicly trying to mend ties with his rebel party members. But will this work? Will it be enough to sway voter sentiment? Or will the First Lady's Dior bag become as infamous as Marie Antoinette's cake and bring down the regime?
Is karma real? Justin Trudeau would probably say yes. He seems obsessed with two things in life. One is his hairstyle, the other is lecturing others. But for a change, Trudeau is at the receiving end. A Canadian court has pulled up his government. He has been accused of overreach. Why? Over his crackdown on protests. I'll tell you the whole story. In early 2022, Canadian truckers gathered in Ottawa. Trudeau had unveiled new COVID guidelines, but the truckers did not like them, so they protested. Trudeau responded with an iron fist. He invoked special emergency powers, that too for the first time in Canada's history. What followed was a crackdown. Hundreds of police officers were called in. They began driving the protesters away. Take a look at the operation.
Shame on you!
More than 200 people were arrested. Even bank accounts were frozen. That's right, Trudeau wanted to cut off funding for the truckers, so he froze bank accounts. But now the court has pulled him up. Trudeau's decision has been declared unreasonable and not justified. The court says it violated rights and freedoms. Let me put that in simpler words. Justin Trudeau misused his powers. His crackdown was unnecessary and excessive. The opposition is pouncing on the verdict. They say Prime Minister Trudeau is illegally suppressing citizens. And has the Prime Minister reacted? Not yet. He sent his deputy to face the fire. Instead of apologizing, the government is doubling down. They say the crackdown was the right call.
We were convinced at the time, I was convinced at the time, it was the right thing to do. It was the necessary thing to do. I remain, and we remain, convinced of that.
So no remorse. The plan is to appeal this verdict in a higher court. But talk about irony. Trudeau has made a career out of lecturing, out of telling other countries what to do. Well, his own court is now telling him something. It says his policies were wrong. But Trudeau refuses to listen. Let me take you back to 2020. India's capital was gripped by a farmers' protest. Of course, Trudeau waded in. He said he was concerned by the situation. But India did not use emergency powers. In fact, the controversial laws were later withdrawn. So in the end, the people got what they wanted in India. Compare that to Canada. A, Trudeau did not lift the vaccine rules, and B, he removed the protesters by force. Yet somehow, Justin Trudeau is the knight in shining armor, standing up for freedom of expression. What explains this? A sense of Western superiority. Protests in the West are billed as dangerous. Even the truckers protest in Canada. Their deputy prime minister said their national economic security was under threat. So crackdowns are fine. But elsewhere, protests are not dangerous. They are depicted as peaceful shows of dissent, so no crackdowns. They must be allowed to fester and disrupt ordinary life. This attitude needs to change. We need to use the same yardstick everywhere. Let's hope Canadian courts can make Justin Trudeau understand that. Now let me ask you a question. Think of a swimmer shattering world records. What kind of an athlete comes to mind? Someone in excellent shape, I presume. Also someone young. But would you picture a 99-year-old? If you didn't, it's about time to change that. Let me tell you about Betty Brussel. She was born in the Netherlands in 1924. She learned to swim in the canals near Amsterdam. In 1959, she moved to Canada with her husband and started a family. In her mid-60s, she became interested in competitive swimming. Yes, mid-60s. When most people put their best years behind them, Brussel took up something so challenging and persisted with quiet determination. Today, Brussel is 99 years old and she has become an unlikely celebrity. She's on a record-breaking spree. She has broken the world record in 400-meter freestyle, 50-meter backstroke and 50-meter breaststroke, all on the same day. For context, swimming uses birth years for age category, so Brussel is competing in the 100 to 104-year-old age class. Also, by the time she swims to the finish, an Olympic athlete can cover the same distance thrice, but in her age category, she's quite the rock star, and she has a pile of medals. In most races, she's assured a record. In some other races, no one her age has ever competed. So Brussels sets a world record simply by finishing. Her feat is shockingly inspiring, but Brussel is not all that surprised. She says, and I'm quoting, "I do not really feel old." That's a simple remark and a powerful one. I'll tell you why. Imagine for a moment that you have no birth certificate, that your age is based on what you feel inside, in your head. How old would you say you are? There's a good chance you will tell an age that is either older or younger than you really are. Most people don't think they're shorter or taller than their height, or that their shoe size is different from what it is. But we don't experience aging the same way. When it comes to age, people can come up with varied numbers. It is bizarre but fairly common, and it's fascinating to scientists. They call it subjective age. It is a state of people's physical and mental health, and it proves why some flourish as they age while others fade. It is true that aging makes people more susceptible to diseases. But people who feel younger are typically healthier, at lower risk of cognitive decline. They're more psychologically resilient too. They feel they're more capable. Because if you mentally view yourself as younger, you believe you have a few pivots left. And you still see yourself as useful. So science proves that it is less about your biological age and more about your mindset, which is why there is no perfect age to be successful, yet our society is consumed with the thought of aging. People constantly feel like they're running out of time. They wonder if there's still time to make a mark. And why won't they? Anti-aging creams are marketed as fairy dust, and 30 under 30 lists are thrust down our throats. But remember, age is a double-edged sword. It harms the old by erasing their ambitions and achievements, just as it hurts the young by putting unrealistic pressure on them. When it is not a mark of a success, creativity, or passion. For every Mozart who composed his first symphony at the age of 8, there is a Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late American Supreme Court Justice who stayed on the bench until her death at the age of 87. Or Yuichiro Miura of Japan, who climbed Mount Everest at the age of 80. And just as we had Bhagat Singh, a revolutionary Indian freedom fighter in his early 20s, we also had Mahatma Gandhi, who fought for India's freedom till the age of 78. So the bottom line is this: whether you're older, younger, or Paul Rudd, who's probably not aging at all, when age becomes the benchmark for success, everyone loses out. So when they say that age is just a number, they're not kidding. And it's that time of the year again. Everyone is talking about the Oscars. The nominations are in, but all that people are talking about is those not nominated. It's been called the Great Oscar Snub. And it's about the movie Barbie. One of the biggest hits of 2023, Barbie earned over $1 billion at the box office, and it had 2 women at its helm. Greta Gerwig as director and Margot Robbie as the lead actor. Yet both of them have not been nominated for their respective categories. But guess who was nominated? Ryan Gosling from Barbie for Best Supporting Actor. So a movie about dismantling patriarchy, yet a man is nominated. Is the Oscar snub just another snub for women? Or has it got to do with its dislike for commercial successes too? Our next report tells you.
Doesn't matter what I do, I will always be number 2. Those are lyrics from the song I'm Just Ken, a song Ryan Gosling sang in the movie Barbie. Rings true today, the Oscars nominations are in, and Barbie has been given the big snub. Some facts about the movie first. Barbie released on the 21st of July 2023. It has since become a pop culture phenomenon. The wave of pink took over the world and also the box office, raking in more than $1 billion. What's more, it was helmed by a female director, Greta Gerwig. The lead actor was Margot Robbie. But Barbie wasn't just a movie about dolls. It was about dismantling patriarchy. It was about women and celebrating them. But that didn't seem enough for the Academy Awards. Barbie got 8 Oscar nominations. There was Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor Female, Best Supporting Actor Male, Best Producer. Yet no nominations for Best Director or Best Actor. And even Ryan Gosling raised this. He said there's no Ken without Barbie and that there's no Barbie movie without Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie. The nomination news led to an uproar on social media. Celebrities called it a snub. Fans slammed the Academy Awards. Some called it the literal plot of Barbie. But there was the other side too. They argued that it's in line with the choices the Academy Awards make and that other women had been nominated. Historically, the Academy Awards never likes commercial successes. Jaws didn't get an Oscars nomination. Neither did Leonardo DiCaprio for Titanic. So it wasn't a surprise that Barbie was snubbed. Many expected it. Plus, the Oscars rarely nominate comedic performances. So maybe that's why Margot Robbie missed out. But the point here is Barbie isn't just a commercial success. It was much more than that. It was a $1 billion movie. But it was also a cultural statement. It was a movie about a doll, but it also had a social message that made it a one-of-a-kind phenomenon. And the Academy Awards could have recognized that. After all, sexism in Hollywood isn't new. In 2017, out of the top 250 films, 88% had no female directors, 83% had no female writers, and 96% had no female cinematographers. In the top movies of 2018, women protagonists were 4 times more likely than men to be shown naked. 94% of women in Hollywood experience sexual harassment or assault. Plus, the Academy Awards doesn't have a great track record. They may have snubbed commercial successes, but they've snubbed women too. In 1977, Lena Wertmuller became the first woman to be nominated for Best Director. It was 48 years after the Academy Awards started. Even then, she didn't win. The first win for a woman director came in 2010. It was Kathryn Bigelow for The Hurt Locker. Only 3 women in Oscars history have won Best Director: Kathryn Bigelow, Chloe Zhao, and Jane Campion. So the Oscars may not have liked Barbie. Many Academy members called it a movie about a toy. But what they got wrong here is the optics. The Oscars had an opportunity here to correct historic wrongs, to give commercially successful movies a chance. But it looks like they missed the cue here. So while Barbie was ready to party, the Oscars cancelled it.
know I'm...
Now it's time for Vantage Charts, images that tell the story. In the Marshall Islands, rogue waves hit a remote US army base, destroying buildings. In Serbia, helicopters were deployed to fight a blaze at a shopping mall. And frozen lakes have become ice hockey arenas for youth in Kyrgyzstan. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1966, an Air India flight 101 from Bombay to London crashed near the Mont Blanc summit. The crash killed all 117 passengers on board. Among the victims was Homi Bhabha, the founder of India's nuclear program. We're leaving you on that note. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Whoa! What? Where's Viv? Where's Viv? Alright, you good? You good? Oh my god. Jake, are you okay? Coming in! Get out of here!
A very warm welcome. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Akanksha Swaroop. In a major setback for the opposition's India bloc and head of Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Nyaya Yatra's Bengal leg, West Bengal's Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee